Good day, everybody. This is a video on the lab. We're going to compare static static IP addressing versus dynamic addressing. So the first thing we do is check the router. So if you hover over the router, you'll see you have a gigabit 00 and a 10, and one link is up, one link is down. Go ahead and click on the router to your config tab. If you click on gigabit 0, you can see it's active and on. It has an IP address and a subnet mask. Gigabit 10, it's not active and it does not have an IP address or a subnet mask. So this will be your default gateway. So we'll have to remember that. All right, so let's go ahead and configure. You can see that we have a gigabit on the. Go ahead and if we try to see if there's any server to give us an IP, we should get a PIPA, automatic IP addressing. So it's right up here. It's a 169.254. So when we see that number, we have to make sure that it needs to find the server to get the IP. All right, so let's go ahead and set our settings. So you can do it through ipconfig with static. And if you see here, just follow what the notation is. So it's 10.10. When I press tab, it automatically fills in the subnet mask with a default 255.0.0.0. We'll talk about that later, why that happens. And we said the default gateway was .1. So save time. Just paste that and make sure you change it to .1. And then this will be the domain server. So we'll create a domain and test that out today. So looks good to me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to full screen here. I'm going to go to simulation mode. Expand this window. If I do edit filters, I can see all these things that we can look at. There's 3 tabs up here that look at miscellaneous. Oof. So we'll learn maybe 10 of these this semester. So it won't be overwhelming. This is your speed. I like to speed it up a little bit. So what we got to do now, since we set our IP, we need now to go ahead, go to command prompt, ping 10.10.1. Okay, so you see over here these little messages. First one is an ARP, and we can see information in these 7 layers. So we'll learn more about these 7 layers, but kind of look at what you see here first. These numbers here in this FFFF. Next one is another protocol, ICMP, and it shows us different information: source IP, destination IP. That's layer 3. So back to the ARP, it's back to this other number here with FFF. So if you let it play out, notice how that message is going to everyone. So that's not efficient communication, because to get to this router, you had to go send messages to everybody on the network. So we had replies, 4 replies, you sent 4, it received 4, 0 loss. So that's what we want to see. So we basically said, are you there, gateway, the default gateway? Okay. So let's move on. We did the ping. So we just did the ping, looked at the layers, turn off simulation, we're back to real time. So now let's go configure the server. So first thing we do, check your IP, make sure it's set. Yep, subnet mask, default gateway in DNS. Now let's go to the services tab on DHCP. Make sure it's the gigabit because we do have gig 0. If I go to physical, you can see that it's got a NIC card and it's got a second slot. So we can populate that and then it'll change to back to services, DHCP. It's on, you have a full name. The gateway is correct. The DNS server is correct. And then this one, let's go ahead and change that to 100. Make sure you save. So if you want to expand this out, here's your summary. So you can double check all those. So it's going to give out a maximum of 156 IP addresses starting at 100. So let's go ahead and prove that. So we'll go to DHCP5, desktop, config. So you can see that it already received 101. So let's go back to static and see, does it get the same one or a different one? So it's got the same one. Check this device. It got 100. So this was the first device to get the IP. 5 was the second because it's 101. So who got 102? Check this PC. There's 102. Okay, so when we flip this one, we can anticipate it getting 103. So you can see that they all got IP addresses from this. So let's watch that in real time. So IP config, back to static. Let's click on simulation mode. Now, when we hit this, now here's your, it's tight, but it's a protocol, and it has 7 layers now. Now you have this layer 4 that added this information, layer 3, layer 2, and layer 1. So will this go into the switch and move straight to the server, or will it go to all devices on the network? That's what we're watching for. So we'll slow it down just a little bit. Goes in, sends it out all ports, and only the server has got a little green. So the server was the only one that needed that message. All right. So once we go back here, you can see that it got the IP. Now let's do one more thing in simulation. Go to simulation. Let's ping the gateway. So every time you configure a host or an end device, you want to ping the gateway, because if they get to the gateway, they should get to the internet. So 10.10. I hit enter. So again, you can see this message type ICMP up to layer 3. This ARP is at layer 2. We don't need to know that for today. It's just showing you that representation. And now the prediction will go into the switch and out all ports, or just to the port where the server is. I'm sorry, the gateway. In the switch, now this is an ARP. So remember, first transmission sent to everyone, but then it went right back. All right, so let's watch it again. I'll clear it by clicking real time. Go to simulation. Now watch this time. Won't need an ARP again. So that ARP create something different. So watch what happens now. It's into the switch, straight to the gateway. No other device saw that message. So that part's necessary, but it also is a little inefficient. But we have to use that method. Okay, so we know the importance of the server, giving out IP addresses, and also the information of the default gateway and the DNS server. So since we are using this server as a DNS server, remember the DNS server is the Internet Phone Book. So we want to make a domain name, which is a website, URL. So click on DNS, and I already have rpm.org. So let's add Polsky building. And this good Polsky has too long dots, biz. It's the same IP, so we're going to add it. So now we can test these. These should work because each one of these devices is coming back to this server and says, hey, it's 10.10.254 is rpm.org. So we can now ping, go to any of the PCs, go to command prompt, type in ping rpm.org. Now, what did it reply? It replied the IP address. So now let's ping polsky.biz. Once again, both work. So if we go to GoDaddy right now and pay for a domain name, a URL, then we can buy it, and then we will have a website that's pingable and also reachable with that DNS record. So I hope that helps the lab, and then we will see you in the next class.